Okay, so here we are, electric charge and electric force. This is Unit 8. This is going to be Part 1, which is charges and attraction. So how charges attract, hopefully you kind of know a little bit about that. You've seen that before, probably before. And we're going to start with a little experimental video. And so we've got this little experiment. We have this gentleman who's going to come in. He's going to, for experiment number 1, he's just going to rub the balloon with some felt. There's really no sound for you to hear. I can just talk you through this incredible video. Just so you know, I don't usually do this one in class anyway because half the time it doesn't work that well. And even when it does work, let's not beat around the bush. You guys are AP kids. You'll point out every little mistake or, hey, it doesn't really look like it's doing what it's supposed to be doing. And think about this. They probably did like 45 takes. And the take you're about to see is the best one. So, yeah, understandable. And hopefully you can kind of see what's going on. He's going to bring it closer to it to see what happens. You can kind of make some observations that we'll talk about in a little bit. And we're going to move on to experiment number 2, and that's how we're labeling him in our notes. And experiment number 2 is he's going to rub that balloon with the felt. Then he's going to actually subject it to that felt again. So you can see here what happens. He rubs it to the felt, but notice what the ball is doing. Interesting, right? We're going to go on to experiment number 3, and basically we're going to redo experiment number 2 and number 1, but we're going to do it with plastic wrap. Now he's using wax paper, which isn't, I kind of think, one of the reasons it probably doesn't work out as well as he hoped, but it still works out okay. So here's experiment number 3, where he rubs both of them with plastic wrap, and he somehow manages to walk behind the camera. Woo! And then he walks in front of the camera. It's very confusing the way this gentleman works. Just remember, people, this textbook company paid lots of money for this video. And notice the balloons are different color. Yeah, how many balloons do you think he popped? Hopefully you're kind of noticing a little bit about the attraction or repulsion of this particular thing. And as he sort of is going to push that balloon closer and closer and closer to see what sort of happens to the magnitude of that attraction. Now we're going to go through number 4, which is just like number 2. So he's going to have that plastic rubbed balloon and then subject it to that plastic again. Yeah, it does. You might be able to hear my son in the background. He notices the balloon was sticking to it. It wasn't actually sticking, but something like it. Now we're going to do rub with felt and 1 with plastic. A lot of times you'll use rabbit's fur. The problem is, you get someone who complains, oh, you killed a rabbit to do an experiment. It's so sad. And yeah, so they just usually use felt now, but rabbit's fur actually works really good. So he's going to rub this with plastic. Looks like a bunch of garbage bags, which works a whole lot better than the piece of wax paper he had before. And then he's going to rub it with the felt. All right, let's see. What do you think is going to happen? And they're kissing, right? They're like kissing balloons, like Romeo and Juliet. Oh, it's so sweet, right? Oh, and he can even pull it, and look, they're still kissing. Oh, all gone. And I know you're excited because, well, you're sad probably because that was the end of the wonderful, beautiful experiment. All right, so let's talk about what we just saw. So experiment number 1 was the interaction of 2 balloons, both rubbed with felt. And what happened? Well, it should be pretty simple. What happened was the balloons repelled each other, right? So the 2 balloons rubbed with felt, then the balloons repelled each other, okay? Observations about the magnitude. So we're talking about the strength of it. And if you notice, as he pulled that string, because he didn't want to touch the balloon, as he pushed the string closer, the balloons got, the repulsion between them got a little bit stronger. It was more easy to see, that's for sure. So it must have gotten stronger. Now, if we were to draw a free body diagram for these 2 balloons, we'd still have gravity acting on us. So gravity on 1, and then the gravity on 2. We'd still also have this tension, which is the string force on 1 and on 2. But obviously there'd be this force right here, which is the force of 2 on 1. So obviously this is balloon number 1 right here. And what would happen is you would have that force of the string of the second balloon on the first balloon. And over here you'd have the same thing, but in reverse. So the first balloon on the second balloon. So there's some sort of force that's causing these 2 to push apart. Shouldn't be too hard to understand. Now experiment number 2 was the felt, and then it was obviously subjected to that felt again. So what happened? Well, the thing is actually attracted to that felt, right? One balloon was rubbed with felt, and the felt was brought near and then pulled away. The balloon stayed in contact with the felt. It didn't do really well, but it did pretty good. But it was definitely stronger when it was like touching her, right on top of it, so to speak. And if we were to draw this free body diagram, it would look just like the same as before. Gravity on one, except you got string going in the other direction. But you still have that felt that would be pulling us. That was the felt on balloon number 1. Let's move on to experiment number 3, interactions of 2 balloons rubbed with plastic. And obviously this should be pretty similar to the 2 balloons rubbed with the felt. So you've got them obviously that they're going to be repelled. The observation about magnitude, closer they got, the more repulsive they got. And then we draw the free body diagram, and it's going to look exactly like the last one. The only difference, of course, being is that one was plastic. I'm sorry, 2 on 1, 1 on 2, so same thing. Basically, everything looks the exact same as the experiment number 1. Experiment number 4 should look a lot like experiment number 2. What happened? It's not complicated. It was attracted to the plastic. Seemed to be a little bit more attracted to the plastic. One balloon was rubbed with felt, and the plastic was brought near it. Okay, so that's obviously a typo with theirs. One balloon was rubbed with plastic, then the plastic was brought near and then pulled away. I do apologize about that. So that is a typo, but I'm not fixing the video. The balloon stayed in contact with the plastic. Observation about magnitude: the closer the plastic was to the balloon, the stronger the force. And again, if we draw this free body diagram, you still have gravity, you still have that string, and then right there, that's the plastic on 1. So that was kind of interesting. So experiment number 5 was where you had one rubbed with plastic and one rubbed with felt. So now you had 2 different things. What happened? Well, they were kissing, remember? Yeah, the balloons were attracted to each other. So 2 balloons, one rubbed with plastic and the other rubbed with plastic. Then the balloons attracted to each other. Observation about magnitude: this one was harder to see. When he pulled it away, it did still attract, just not as stronger. So obviously the closer it got, the stronger the attraction. So whatever's causing that attraction or repulsive force obviously has something to do with that particular